This new season has ushered in a timeline of new beginnings that is directly related to destiny and purpose. In this timeline, God has ushered his chosen ones into his master plan. And this master plan consists of the manifestation and the fulfillment of purposes and promises that have been long awaited. This is Prophetic Day 21. We've entered into Prophetic Day 21. It's something that I've been talking about for most of the year. Prophetic Day 21, deriving from the book of Daniel, and many of you have been contending for your destiny for a very long time. You've been standing, you've been listening to the voice of the Lord, you have been obeying in the midst of chaos, confusion, and uncomfort, and standing on the things that the Spirit of the Lord has spoken to you concerning continuing to walk in love and to be available for strategic assignments that God has placed you in for this season in this particular timeline. And as you've reached the master plan, this is the plan that has been in store for you all along. This season, this timeline in the earth is what God has been preparing and grooming and sharpening you for. This is a time where God is bringing together many kingdom marriages. I like to call them mandated marriages from heaven. These are strategic marriages that God has ordered from heaven that will take place in this timeline. This is also a timeline for those who contend with spiritual warfare. Many of you don't deal with it but you do, but not just on a certain level. And then there are those who are called to the front line. And for those who are called to the front line, you have been dealing with and battling spiritual territorial spirits for a very long time. And God has used that to teach you the strategies of demonic forces in the midst of chaos and confusion, or also to develop your faith in the midst of, we live in a world that has been taken over by wickedness. However, because of the blood that was shed on the cross of Calvary, because of the resurrected Christ, and us being justified and given authority in heaven and on earth, as he is descended and ascended and put the blood of the Lamb of God on the mercy seat, we have been given a type of designated authority, power in this timeline. And so be mindful of your words, what you say. If you've been paying attention, there are certain things that maybe you have just kind of spoken loosely, but as the Spirit of the Lord is nudging you to be more mindful of your words, take heed to that, because there are certain seasons where the prophetic power that comes out of your mouth is stronger than other seasons. And this is the timeline where the things that you say, you can see them come to pass right away. And so that means guard your heart and your mind, continue to walk in love, and stay in the place that God has ordained for you to stay, to stand. There is also, um, God is giving the grace to abound to every good work. There is grace that has been given because of the favor that is resting upon your life. The favor of God can be heavy because, if we think about Mary and Joseph, and how, Mary was said to by the angel to be highly favored of the Lord, Daniel as well. And so we see sometimes those who are highly favored of the Lord may end up um, having to experience some things that are not very desired. Nevertheless, his will be done, his will. And as we've been given a will to submit to his will, as we do that, his word says that if we are faithful and obedient, we will eat the good of the land. And that is Isaiah chapter 1, verse 19. Many of you have already stepped into your promised land. Today, there's a lot of clouds in the sky, and it was after the Lord gave me the revelation. I saw a it's like a sack and it's fluid in the sack, and it's wobbly and it's bouncy because the fluid in the sack is wanting to break loose, and I could just see it. in the realm of the spirit, and it kind of reminded me of like a water balloon, if it's full, right? And I knew that these were prayers. I knew that these were prayers that had been sent up, that had been answered, and that this was a timeline when heaven was full, at a pregnant full of answered prayers that he wants to give his people that are actually due in this timeline. And so be mindful that as God continues to draw you, and maybe you just feel like you want to worship, adore him, pray, just talk to him, spend more time with him. Being in that position is what is the push in the realm of the spirit. It pushes, and I see that it's in this seconds to answer prayers. But it's also the goodness of God. It is the goodness of God that is about to pour over, and as these words that have been spoken, these petitions, these requests that have been made unto God, as they move forward, as they come forward, and as they begin to explode out of the realm of the spirit, they begin to materialize. And this is not just in different things that that should manifest, that are on schedule to manifest in this season, but this is also ideas, concepts, insights, relationships, things that have been held. Day 21 is a time where the strong man is brought down, and everyone deals with a strong man. It's a habit. It's a some type of, sometimes it's a demonic force that has been fighting you for a long time, trying to stop um, your advancement of the kingdom in the earth. And this is day 21, and this is the time where there is breakthrough concerning your destiny. And be mindful, because God is now about to fulfill some promises, some things he had laid on your heart, and some promises he has been giving you. And because there has been so much trouble, because there has been so much trouble, portion that is waiting for you. And this double portion has been birthed, and it is in like a twin spirit. Many of you, as the Lord is nudging in your heart to take communion more often, I know he has laid it on my heart. I take communion in the morning at daybreak, and then I take it I take it at daybreak, and then I take it at sundown. And then sometimes if the Lord wakes me up in the middle of the night, for prayer, for communion, I will go ahead and take communion. And we must be mindful in this season, when God wakes us up to commune with us, for us to stand in the gap, that he is warding off death. He is warding off things that maybe we wouldn't even know about unless he decides to share them with us. And so be mindful. Listen, many of you are going to God has such amazing blessings for you in this time in your life. And you may feel old. You may feel like, oh, my time is up, or, this or that or the other. But we serve a God of the miraculous. Moses was 80 years old when God called him. Sarah was 90 when she had her first child. It took Pharaoh to get Joseph out of the dungeon after being falsely accused. Why? Because when destiny is calling, all the obstacles have to move out of the way. And so destiny is calling, and God will shift systems and protocols and things of that nature. We see it in the book of Esther, where Esther took the chance. We must be strong and of good courage concerning the things that God would have us to do. This is also a season for those who are, you fasted in the past, and now God is calling you back to return to a season of fasting, to a season of taking communion more often. As often as you eat this bread and drink this blood, you show forth this death and suffering until he comes again. There are witches and warlocks, and I know we don't like talking about that or thinking about that, but it's true. We need not to be defeated because of lack of knowledge. Those people are out there, and they practice things that are not right. And we like to say, well, they can't touch me. I belong to God. But what is it that God needs for you to do? And in this particular season, taking communion blocks these demonic blood sacrifices that these desperate demonic agents will attempt to adhere to, because they know what time it is, and they're fasting when we're not pushing back the plate. And so let us be mindful that God has birthed. Listen, many of you have already birthed, and it is double portion. I want to say twins in the spirit, but it is double portion in the realm of the spirit. And listen, you have been you. There's the grace. The grace has been birthed along with you, and God is moving forward in that grace. Many of you, listen, there's so much favor and grace that is resting on your life, and it is the favor of God that is needed to complete the work of God, to complete the assignments that God has given us. So I want to take a few minutes to share this prophetic word with you. May God continue to bless you or richly bless you. Listen, if God wakes you up in the middle of the night, try not to go back to sleep. God will give you the grace to handle the rest of the day. But it's imperative that we move forward in alignment with what God is saying. Not anything else but what God is saying. His word says that surely the whole earth will be filled with his glory. And that is through us. That is through our submission. That is through the obedience and the worship of his counsel. God knows his business. And he is moving. Listen, things are going to move quickly. There are many of you look like I'm behind, and oh Lord, if you move me into my promise today, I'm simply not ready. There are things that only God can do. Miracle signs and wonders, things that on doors that only God can open. And he's opening those doors for you. And those things that you need, the Lord is going to grant it to you. And listen, it'll be like waking up and overnight your entire life has changed. These are the wonderful things that God has in store for his people in this season, in this timeline. This is a time, I know, you hear a lot of prophetic words about new beginnings, and in the month of August, we know the month is the 8th month, and it seems like, okay, sometimes people take those things and put it together and do a play on words, but we are truly in a time of new beginnings. This is the number 21 represents, it represents, biblically, it represents, it represents faithfulness. The fullness of time, and it also represents maturity. And many of you have been groomed and brought into a place of maturity as God is silencing the mouth of accusers in the earth that Satan uses to bring those voices to the throne room of God in order to accuse you, in order to petition, to hold something back from you. And this is day 21, and this is the time where that will stop, as many of God's people are being ushered to the front of the line and being moved in position to fulfill their destiny. May God continue to richly bless you, and we'll talk to you again.